On a Thursday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, I am merely Bo. He is the great Z, and to my right, it has been too long, the great Joel Bitonio.
I know, you guys got me back on for once. All right. I'm just kidding.
Many requests are made. Not all fulfilled. Many
requests
requests are made, yes. No, you're one of the best. You're a multiple-time winner of the Dino Lucarelli Good Guy Award, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going. That's the reason I came back. I'm trying to break a record that's unbreakable for the Good Guy Award.
I think you got a good shot at it.
How does California Joel wrap your head around the last month of weather?
Oh, man. I knew winter was tough, and we were here all winter. My kids are in school. But we got like a week of like 75, and I was like, oh, we're turning the corner, and then now we're like 50 and rainy. It feels like Seattle. So
Feels like the winter.
Yeah.
I think this is worse.
A little disappointed. The golf season gets a little cut into it, and I'm a mutter. Like, I'll play in a little bit of weather, but
Same.
But this is getting a little out of hand.
It's terrible.
Cart pass by August, boys. Cart pass by. You guys will be right back into camp.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. We're going to be toast. We're going to be off to Carolina and Philadelphia, and it's going to be toast. All right, you mentioned that's why you came back. So part of it was obviously breaking the Dino Lucarelli Good Guy Award record. What was the rest? You and I talked kind of at the end of the year, and I knew you wanted to, but you wanted it to be right to do so. How'd you get to this decision?
Yeah, truthfully, I was I was disappointed in the way the season went last year. You want to win games when you play this game, and I was in year 11, and that's kind of what it's come down to. And you were frustrated with the way things were happening. What you thought was something we could be good at as a team, and we kind of move away from that. And so I wanted to take some time away and just you're with guys for 6 months, and you're like, let me get away from this, let me refresh. So I went away for a month. Away is hang out with my kids in my house. Nothing, crazy. I didn't go on any crazy trips.
It wasn't an ayahuasca trip
exactly.
into the darkness to make your decision.
But and I was like, met Coach Bloom. Talked to Coach Stefanski. Talked to Andrew Berry, and just like the plan. Like, they don't tell me all the top secrets, but they're like, hey, we want to get back to what we did well in 2020, 2021. We want to run the ball. We want to play action off the run. We're going to get a vet quarterback. We're going to draft a guy. All these things that you're like, as a lineman, you're like, all right, this makes sense. Mistakes make sense. Coach Bloom comes back, and he talks to me, and we go out to dinner, and just the way he was talking about.
He's your kind of guy.
Yes. He's an offensive line coach.
Yeah.
He loves ball. He loves running the ball. He was at Stanford with those guys when they were really running the ball, 3 tight ends, 2 fullback type of thing. And that got me excited. And then I just, sat with my wife, and, I think she thought I was going to retire. And I was like, I think I can still play. Like, I'm ready. I'm not ready to be done. I do love golf. I am ready to, do that eventually, but I'm like, I can still play football. I have the rest of my life to
And how old are
do
you?
those things. I am 33 years old. Yeah. Body of like a 55-year-old, but 33 years old at heart.
No. People have, we have a pretty decent idea, but even we don't have any idea like what you play with injury-wise on a given basis. I can't imagine it. So when you're done and you're decompressing, how much of it is mentally I can get back to there, physically what that entails, and then did you lean on Joe at all, Thomas, with obviously because he had to make these types of decisions that you're making?
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of the guys, like I talked to Joe, I talked to Mitch, I talked to John Greco, just guys that had made that decision. Yeah, Greco's man. I'm going to see him this weekend, so we're excited for that. But no, it was you want to just know, like, I actually talked to Vrabel as well. Guys that have played in this league for a long time that are like, what was the decision, that you made? And mentally, I feel like I was fine. Like, I was like, it was disappointing. Like, the season was frustrating, but I was like, I don't want to let one season or one circumstance, like, drive me away. It's really the physicality. Like, so I had my back checked out. I had my elbow, my knee, all these things that have bothered me. I'm like, what is this going to do to me if I keep playing? And obviously, there's no answer. Like, you could really mess something up. But they're like, it is what it is at this point, like, yeah, it might get a little bit worse, but at the end of the day, it's like, we feel like you're healthy enough to go out there and keep playing. And that's kind of what I asked Joe. And Joe was big, like, hey, play as long as you can. And his knees were bad at the end. So I think that was the reason. Mitch, gave me a lot more analytical answer of like, well, you got to, this versus this and the pros and cons. And I might unplug something. Maybe.
No, you're
okay,
good.
good. And Greco's just always been a mentor to me, and I just always looked up to him the way he was a professional. He just, they just give me these these thoughts and all that together, and then with my wife, and she's like, whatever you want to do, and I was like, all right, let's play some more football.
I'm glad you did.
One thing you didn't mention, and I'd have to imagine, maybe it's not a big piece of it, but there probably are only so many things you're going to be able to do where you can make more than $10 million in one calendar year. How much does that factor in at all?
Yes, I think it'd be crazy to be like money, doesn't matter at all.
Like, I love doing this, and I get this as well.
Correct. I think we've done a decent job of, taking care of our money and stuff, and in that aspect, one way or the other, it wasn't going to be a huge difference. But then you look at it and you're like, all right, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money playing a game that you love that you can still do. And it's like, let's go out there and give it a try.
After spending that weekend with the Hoff, I asked him, I'm like, so this is why you played football, so you could have this. And he's like, yep, no doubt in my mind.
Do you get some juice? You talked about getting back to running the football. We had the rookie mini camp. We had Quinshawn. We had Dylan. All of a sudden, it's like
you didn't have to ask.
But it's like, okay, that's you want to get back to running the football. Those two guys both look like they're ready to go.
Yeah, it's exciting. You draft guys and you see these running backs that are explosive players, and the way Coach Reese and Coach Stefanski and Coach Bloom have really talked about, we're getting back to running the ball. Like what we did good, multiple different sets, not just wide zone, but the power scheme, pulling me and Wyatt, things that we've done well in the past. And then you get some fresh running backs back there that are ready to run. And truthfully, I didn't know much about the guys we drafted, but you see them, you see the highlights, you see how they carry themselves here, you see some of the stuff from minicamp, and you're like, all right, there's some explosion in there for sure. So it's exciting.
Yeah, Judkins is a stud and knows how to get in the end zone, is a hammer. Sampson was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Right, yeah. There's some accolades that go into that. And it's,
you got to be pretty talented in that conference to be the Offensive Player of the Year. He certainly is that. You mentioned bringing in a veteran quarterback. Obviously, you got to work with Joe Flacco in the past. He's back. But, I've heard a lot of real positive things about Kenny Pickett. 15-10 as a starter in his career. What's kind of, he knows the AFC North, obviously. What's been your impressions of Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, it's been great to have both of them. And they're both just such quality professionals that they work well with each other already, seeing Kenny and Joe in the weight room and on the field. But it's awesome. He's been great. We've golfed a couple times when the weather's held up and just getting to know him in that sense. Like
good golfer?
Yeah, he's just started like last year, but he's already like in the low 90s. So you're like, all right, this guy has some talent, and he's very competitive. We were playing some stuff, and I made a couple putts on him, and he was a little bit frustrated. But but no, he's you can tell he's super competitive. He's locked in. Like you said, he has understanding of the division. He's played here. And I think he understands what we want to do. We want to take care of the ball. We want to let our defense, play at a high level and then take those shots when we have them. But no, it's been great so far, and I've enjoyed, getting to know him a little bit better as well.
What has the vibe kind of been like? You mentioned like the bad taste in the mouth that you had after last season. A lot of veterans on this team. Obviously, a youth talent has been injected as well. But just kind of the off-season feeling around the team for fans. What are they missing by not seeing what's happening day to day?
Yeah, I can tell you what, like we're not dwelling on that, but guys know we did not play up to our standard last year as a team, and I think Coach Stefanski has harped on that. Like, hey, we need to do something different, to make a change here. And so the guys have come in and put in work. Obviously, a new playbook on offense, kind of new, but new compared to last year. And the focus really is like
what's old is new, right?
Right. But we've talked about this stuff. We've talked about taking care of the ball, and we haven't done that the last couple of years. We've talked about, forcing turnovers. We haven't done that. These are all things that, to be a winning team, like you have to do. And so we've really been focused on those things and haven't been afraid to call out, kind of the BS stuff that goes on a little bit. But I think the guys are focused. The guys that have been here have been locked in, and I'm excited to kind of see how it progresses.
One thing I've heard some rumblings about is that potentially this is going to be a much more intense and physical training camp than maybe we've seen the last couple of years. Are you hearing those rumblings?
Yeah. I'm excited for it. I know minicamp was a little bit amped up compared to what they've had in the past. We got some OTAs, and obviously there's rules that, we're not breaking, but getting into the training camp, I know we're not going to the Greenbrier this year. We have a couple joint practices, and those are always pretty up-tempo, intense practices. But, no, I think when you want to run the ball like you have to practice running the ball. And so there's going to be some periods, I don't know if they'll be live, but some periods where it's like, hey, we're running the ball 10 times here. Like defense knows it, offense knows it. And you have to fight through those moments because in the games.
That's how you close out fourth quarters.
Right. It makes it easier when the guy you're going against knows the plays you run. But when you go into a game, it's going to feel that much easier.
All right, one of the big topics this week around the league has been the fact that you guys are going to be able to be in the Olympics if you want to be. That passed, and so there will be flag football in the Olympics in 2028. I'm guessing you're going to throw your hat in the ring to quarterback that operation?
Yeah, I don't know if my shoulders will quite hold up. It's exciting. I think guys that want to play, are excited. Part of me is like, we have obviously the best athletes in the world in the NFL, but part of me makes me a little bit nervous. Like, these guys play flag football for a living. Like, there's different rules to it. You know what I mean? Like,
here we go. So
like,
I said.
Like, I've seen them in the Pro Bowl play flag football, and there's a lot of good things. But these guys are like ladder on the ball, running. The quarterbacks do a certain way. I think there would have to be some serious like practice. And I think if you give them 2 weeks or 3 weeks, yes, they'll be the best in the world. But I think you really have to take it serious. Like, you can't just be out there like, all right, we're going to run some 7-on-7 routes and see what happens. Like, obviously they're going to run by some people, but I think some of the teams would be competitive, and I don't truly know, but that's just my vibe.
Some of the teams non-American,
correct?
You think would be,
or even the American flag
I think
football team.
That's what we were saying yesterday.
Probably the best chance.
Bo believes, and I agree with him, that we should be the sports czars of the world. And one of the things we want, because they're saying only one American team. I think there should be an NFL team, and then there should be that professional flag football team, like the guys that are the best of the best of the best. They should get a squad in there because I think that'd be interesting to watch.
Like beach volleyball, you get 2 teams. Like a lot of the sports get 2 different teams. That'd be great.
We are trying to get. We want like all of the best players in our division to participate.
Yes,
to take them off of their teams. So
yes,
like
that's
Lamar
right.
goes in quarterbacks. Jamar Chase, it can be a receiver.
Oh yeah, because when is
DK
Metcalf? It's in July.
Yeah, that would be tight too.
Well, listen. The reality is this is not without the potential for catastrophe.
Right,
for sure.
So. No Browns.
Yeah. Go out there.
All those guys.
Yeah,
I would find it hard to believe, though. I do think you will get NFL players, but I do find it hard to believe that Steve Bisciotti is going to say, yeah, Lamar, you can go play flag football this summer. I think to me, there's no way he allows that.
Right.
Or Jamar Chase, go. We just say it's a big deal. Don't worry about it. Why don't you go play some flag football this summer?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of things to pick through there, but I'd be interested to just see. I know if they trained at it, like they would obviously be elite at it, but it'll be interesting.
There's a lot of scheme in flag football.
Yeah.
I think I liked your line though. Like I thought you saved it at the end when you said
3 weeks,
a 2 week during training camp. Give us 2 weeks with like a coach, and I like my chances. I would install us as like and I'm using us as like the NFL players as like 28.5-point favorites.
I do think though, and we talked about this as well, and I'm sure you've come across them at some points, whether either in your collegiate career, you've heard about them, or you even see a guy like you played with Crow, for example. Now he made it to the NFL, but there are a lot of incredible athletes who would have been great NFL players that never even get to college or to the NFL for a variety of reasons. I mean, if they're on some of those teams. And now they're flag football guys. I mean, that could get interesting.
Yeah, I've seen the 37U on Instagram. Those guys still playing for the love of the game out there. So you never know.
Tell us about the charity. A kid, again, I'm very familiar with it. This is exciting.
Yeah, so I've been working with them for the last couple of years, but we're doing a raffle. So I did a Kid Again cleats for My Cause, My Cleats. I signed those cleats. They're custom Kid Again cleats. They have a custom bottle of Maker's Mark. A Kid Again, and then there's 6 tickets to Browns training camp and a meet and greet with me afterwards. So this is one big raffle. You buy a ticket for $50 on the Kid Again website, or you can go to my Instagram. I got a link in the bio, and you have a chance to win this. One person wins it, but it's a pretty cool thing. And the best part is it's for a great cause. Like Meet Me is okay, but you're helping raise money for these guys. These are families that are raising kids with life-threatening conditions, and they go on these adventures where they bring a lot of these kids together and families. And we went to Scene 75 this offseason, and just seeing those kids like be able to experience a little bit of normalcy, and the families kind of meet and talk with other people that are going through a lot of the same things. It's very special. It's obviously a tough thing to do, but they try and do these adventures, and $50 will pay for one of the family's adventures. So they're doing all types of fundraising. We're just trying to help get the word out. And if someone wants to come meet us at Browns training camp, a tougher, more physical Browns training camp, we'll be excited to meet them.
It's fantastic. It's
awesome.
It's beautiful to see, how involved this organization and this team and the players are in this community, and you're always there. Like I always say, I do the Halloween thing. You're always there.
Yeah.
Always. And it's awesome that it's so important to you because there are a lot of guys, this many years in the league, this many, Pro Bowls. You never know. You're always there. And so I really appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. Honestly, it's like the city has given me so much. And like you talked about, like the Cleveland Browns, I think, the Haslams and their foundations do such an amazing job in this community. And to be a small part of it, like it's easy for me to go out there and be a part of it because we appreciate, what the fans and what the people of Cleveland do for us.
It's great to see you, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be on it. It feels
some
good.
Optimism here. By the way, I think we get it.
Off-season Joel.
Off-season Joel is very excited. We might get
a lot of juice.
We might get yelled at by some of the people out there if we don't even ask you this because you mentioned they told you the plan. Veteran quarterbacks. We talked about them. Yep. Rookie quarterbacks. What's it been like with the two rookies? This is a very unique situation.
Yeah, I think first off, quarterback most important position in any sport, and so if you have two guys that you want to take a chance on, like, hey, why not give them a chance and. To have a guy like Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett in there to learn from, I think is a special place. If I was one of those young guys, I would just follow him around and be like, what does this guy do on a daily basis? Yeah. But they've been good. I've only met him in passing and just saying what's up and seeing how things are going. But they seem locked in. They seem ready to roll. It'll be exciting to see them once we get out on the field. I've had my fair share of quarterbacks, but it seems like these guys – do things that Coach Stefanski and Andrew Berry want to do, and it'll be exciting once we get on the field.
His rookie year, 2014, obviously.
Yeah.
You started with a rookie quarterback then. The great John Football was with Joel, and now here you are again. Now it's going again.
11 years later.
And Connor Shaw. Connor
Shaw was there. Yeah, he was.
Squad,
Who started the final game in Baltimore.
Yes. Me and Joe Flacco were talking about that game this morning.
He hit a bomb to Torrey Smith in that game. We were
actually
close, hanging.
We were
hanging.
Yeah. We were
pretty sure Connor Shaw ended that game with like a finger that was off of his hand, a broken rib, but just that was a tough one.
Yeah, it was tough.
He had internal bleeding.
Yeah.
They had to take him to the hospital.
No, it was bad. Well, okay, crazy. Quick story. I remember that game because we were down. Hoyer was out. Manziel was out. We had this is bad ball by me. I don't remember who he signed to be the backup that week. But he just came in for like a week and, to be the backup quarterback. Connor got absolutely destroyed on the sideline. And he was like army crawling, and the backup quarterback was on the sideline. He's like, "You're good. Get up. Like, don't, And the ref even gave us a chance to like get him off the ground, and we actually completed like a long pass, and he was like hobbling down the field, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this guy is." And we were in that game.
It was a tough.
And Baltimore needed to win to go to the playoffs, so it got a little bit.
He hit a bomb to Torrey Smith. We were like really hanging in, and then it was like that was classic Flacco, like nothing, boom,
found it.
Do we need to do?
Stories with Joel.
Stories with Joel in the off season. Do we need? I mean, we have to talk to your people, but
trust me,
some good stories out there. I think
he has seen a lot.
Dan Murphy keeps me pretty locked away, but when we get a chance, we can definitely do some stories.
Free
with Joel.
Yeah. Free Joel.
We'll talk to Dan about that. Good seeing you, buddy. And good luck
Thanks,
with
guys.
the charity and a kid again, and you can get that on their website and also on your Instagram for the link. And that's just a spectacular charity. So good job out of you on that. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back in. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. You cannot get bigger L luminary than this. This is as big as it gets, and it's a great thrill. This is exciting. We are joined on the Twisted Tea hotline by the new limited partner and owner of your Cleveland Browns. He is the great Charles Woodson. Charles, thank you so much for joining us, sir. We greatly appreciate you. It's got a decent ring to it for a kid from Fremont, Ohio, does it not?
Man, I was just sitting here listening to you say that, man, and I was just kind of blown away by that. Limited partner of the Browns, my home state of Ohio, man. It's kind of crazy.
Charles, take us through.
Indeed.
Take us through how this all came to be. We said yesterday, when you can have, and right by our calculations, there are 3 such people on planet Earth right now. Yourself, it was Tony Dorsett and Marcus Allen, who have won the Heisman, won a college championship, won the Super Bowl, and are in the National Football League, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of 3. When you can add that to your organization, it's obviously a no-brainer from the Browns standpoint. How did this all come together, though? How did you get to this point where, let's do this, you make the investment, and now you are a limited partner of the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I think I want to, first, give a lot of credit to Larry Fitzgerald, and I know that'll probably surprise some people, but he contacted me maybe a little over a year and a half ago and asked me, hey, would I be interested in, maybe exploring getting involved with a franchise? And I was like, yeah, sure, man, let's do it. And so he introduced me to Derek Higgins, who I got to know over the process really well. And from that point, Derek, reached out to a few teams and just kind of, saw their interest. And the Browns were one of the teams that came up. And so once that happened, he set a meeting up with myself and, of course, Mr. Haslem and his wife, J.W. Whitney. And I was able to meet them at the Super Bowl 2024 when it was out in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I was able to sit down with the family and just, talk to them. We talked about each other, his background, the franchise and, my interest in being involved with the team. And so that was just the initial visit, just to kind of feel each other out. And from there, we kind of hit the road, hit the ground running and kind of started down this road throughout this process. So that's kind of the genesis of how it started. And, once we were comfortable, or I would say once they were comfortable, I mean, I definitely want to be a person who's a part of the NFL in this capacity. But, of course, the ball was in their court, whether or not they would want me on board. And they thought it was a good idea for myself to be a part of the franchise. So we started down this path.
Well, it's thrilling stuff. And from your perspective, while you said, you wanted to make sure that they wanted to bring you in, but from your perspective, what were you looking for in an ownership group, in a team? When you're talking to Larry Fitz and you're getting this thing moving a little bit, what were you looking for, and what did the Haslam family have that you identified with and say, this is the type of organization I want to be a part of?
I think when I really sat back and thought about it, it was really the connection with, of course, me being from Fremont, Ohio, and the Browns, of course, being right there in Cleveland, not very far from where I grew up. And I thought that, being a guy who grew up there and watched the Browns as a young kid, thinking about the history there with the Browns, 2 names always pop into my head anytime I think about the Browns, and that's Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield. I grew up, watching those guys, at the cornerstone of the franchise, if you will. And I just remember all of the tough games, the heartbreaks with the Browns, and so it brought back a lot of memories to me. And I thought, man, you know what, that really does tell the story, I think, of myself and this partnership with the Browns. And so to me, it made more and more sense the more that I thought about it.
Did you feel like now was a great time for a very decorated Michigan man like yourself to return to Ohio, knowing that Michigan's won 4 straight? But the fact that Ohio State won the national title this year, maybe they're not going to be quite as salty about it. But Michigan and Ohio State have won the last 2 national championships, and this is the time you choose to come back. Did that have anything to do with it? I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I don't want to rub it in or anything, but we have had some success against those guys. But no, I think in terms of the excitement, it's just the excitement around, the organization. Of course, every team's going to be excited, coming off of the draft. But I think the Browns, we feel pretty good about the guys that they brought in, trying to build that depth within the team structure and trying to make sure that they're competitive, throughout the entire season. So I'm just looking forward to the upside of the guys that we brought in, and then of course, the team that was already there beforehand.
Was there something about being involved with a storied franchise as well? I mean, you think about just your whole profile, Michigan, a storied college franchise. Then you come to the NFL, and you're with the Raiders and the Packers, two of the most storied franchises in the history of this sport. To be with the Browns, one of those kind of, you think of original franchises. Is there something about it being kind of on that level for you? Did that factor into it, as well as obviously being in your home state of Ohio?
Yeah, I sat back and thought about that too, and I thought, man, I have to be, one of the luckiest people in the world to be associated and to have played for the organizations and the historical organizations or college teams that I have. As you mentioned, Michigan, Green Bay, and the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, and now here comes the Browns. And so I don't know if there's, any other player that's, been a part of, played for, and of course, ownership-wise, that's been a part of that type of lineage when it comes to teams. So, man, I'm just so fortunate, man, and so blessed that it's hard to, kind of put it into words. My journey, from a child from Fremont, Ohio, to get to this point to be, part of the ownership group with the Cleveland Browns. So, dude, I'm like I said, I don't even know how. Sometimes I have to pinch myself, man, because it just doesn't feel real.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're talking there, Charles. You think about, when you all won the national championship at Michigan, it'd been a long time. And it was something that, Bo knocked on the door forever, and then you guys knocked that door down and won that national championship. But it had been a long time, and you know what that's like. And one thing we tell our players, and we always get to talk to the rookies when they first come in here, and we say this about the Browns, like it's probably very similar in Green Bay, that this is very much a big college. I mean that as a compliment. In terms of the whole city shuts down on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Much like if you're in Ann Arbor, you're around Detroit at noon on a Saturday, you're going to the big house. Like that's what everybody does. And there is a very collegial feel to it. And I do wonder, when you think about those parallels, all you've done, every place you've been, is win. What is the common denominator that you've found in your life between your participation and winning, and the teams that do win, what do they do?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you got to have great leadership. I feel like the places, of course, that I've been and we've had success and we've won, we had great leadership. In college, playing for Lloyd Carr, man, he offered up tough love, you know what I mean, to the players. So there was no easy road, in terms of, getting in his good graces. And so he got the best out of us. And then from there, you got to have the players on the team that buy into, one, your head coach. You got to buy into the guys who are really truly teaching the players. I always say, man, it's really about the assistant coaches, in my opinion, that really have the hands-on job of developing the players. And if you got those guys who are great teachers of the game, not just putting plays on the board and going through plays, but somebody that can actually teach you the game, really break down the scheme of whatever you're running, and then allowing those guys to really, truly buy into what you're doing. Then guys go out there and they play with confidence. And then from there, you got to have the talent. You got to have talented guys on your roster if you're going to get to the next level. I mean, you can have a good team and buy in, and you can get to the playoffs, or you can get to the conference championship or whatever. But when it comes to getting over that hump, you got to have the right players in there to get into those big games, that the guys who know how to make the big plays and know where to be on assignment and doing their job. And if you can have those three things going for you, that's when you win. So I know that's what the coach and Andrew Berry and those guys are trying to build up there, trying to build this roster with talented players. You got good coaches, definitely. Coaching them with Stefanski, of course, and then me with defense and Jim Schwartz, man. He's one of the best in the game. So you got good guys that are coaching the players. So that's what it's going to take. Now you just got to buy in, man, and build that roster, man, and then you can get where you need to go.
Talking with New Browns limited partner Charles Woodson, NFL Hall of Famer. Charles, what is this going to look like, or what do you want this to look like? How involved do you want to be? Are people going to see you out at training camp? Are people see you maybe at some of the games? Are you going to speak to the kind of how do you envision, or how do you hope this involvement goes? Not just from being the limited partner, but then day to day or week to week, with the team, with this organization.
Yeah, I'll be around as much as I can be. We'll try to work out this schedule with this, with the summer coming up and all of the training camps, OTS or whatever, try to figure out a time when I can get up there. I'd love to get up there and just, see the team, talk to the guys and that sort of thing. But this is, it's a conversation, that I think it'll be an ongoing conversation in terms of, my role and how involved. And, the way I look at it, is I'm always respectful of the people who have been there and who have done it for the amount of times they've done it. Whether that be the coaches or the guys in the administrative level or whatever. This is what they do, and so I'm just coming in, initially to just kind of be a sounding board and anything questions that they asked of me in terms of similar to the question you asked. How do you win a championship? How do you build that team? I can give them my insights of what I feel works, and then I think we'll just kind of grow it into ultimately what it will be in the long run. So I'm just I'm open and excited just for the opportunity to actually be on this side of it. When I think back to my younger days and playing, man, for us it was taboo if you talk to the people upstairs, we didn't trust you. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm on the other side of that, and I don't want those guys to look at me like I used to look at the guys, on that upper level of the facilities. So just looking forward to this process and just growing into whatever role it may be in the long run.
Charles, one thing that Nathan, I'll ask your permission. One thing we'd like to do when you are in town is we'd like to pay proper homage and respect to you by wearing ascots. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Hey, man. Hey, you got my heart right there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You wear the ascot, and when I see you and you have the ascot on, I'm gonna know exactly who I'm talking to.
That's it. All right.
There it is.
When you're in the building, ascots will be worn on
We
this
just
show.
need a little notice.
Little heads up, and ascots will be ready.
Yes.
Man, let's do it. Ascots, baby.
Hey, man, it is so cool to have you on board. It's a real thrill for all of us here, and welcome aboard, and we're all thrilled to see where this all goes.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on, man, and look forward to meeting you guys in person.
Yes.
There it is, the great Charles Woodson, NFL Hall of Famer, one of the 5 coolest Ohioans of all time, and a new limited partner of your Cleveland Browns. We'll get your hot topics. There's a lot of them. Can we just be done? Oh, no, we got Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's at 2. Good grief. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today, get 50 back in bonus bets. You place that first wager of 10 or more. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Your hot topics of the day presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Sad news in the NFL last night. Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep yesterday, just 65 years of age. He was named the youngest general manager in team history in 1984 when the Colts arrived in Indianapolis. I was unaware of that. He took ownership of the team in 1997, led the Colts to a Super Bowl championship in 2007, over 50 years working in the NFL. The 65 is crazy young. Obviously, he's had some health issues and various things through the years. Sure. The two things that I think of with him, there's three things really that jump out to me, and I think he deserves a great deal of credit for in all three of these areas. Number one, what has happened in Indianapolis. Now, a lot of that's Peyton Manning, and they landed Peyton Manning, but they took an aging building and built a state-of-the-art dome that allowed a Midwestern city to host a Super Bowl and countless Final Fours and national championship games and Big Ten championship games and all of it. And it's not just that. If you've been to Indy, as I've been a lot, and included last year for youth sports, when you go out to their training facility, and you've been there because we were there when we did the joint practices, it's a long ways out. It's north of Carmel. But when you get out there and you see perfectly manicured grass fields for little kids to play youth sports on for as far as the eye can see.
It's amazing.
That's a pretty damn good job. So that impact that the NFL and Jim Irsay had on Indianapolis is pretty extreme.
You knew he was kind of always, in some ways, kind of like the wild man owner. He would tweet things and all of this. And I think what's very cool, and McAfee's talked a great deal about him in the last few hours and to yesterday when the news came down. And now you're hearing so many stories. It sounds like Jim Irsay was one of the kindest, most generous people in the world and would do things with one caveat for people, and that was that they never made it public that he did that for them and paid for funerals of people and birthdays, and it just was constantly trying to help people out that either worked for him or in the Indianapolis area, any of it. And he sounds like just an incredibly generous and great guy. We know he was probably the all-time tweeter as an owner of an NFL team, as an owner of any sports franchise, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's sad, 65. That's
crazy.
And you know that given his situation, this is a person who has the means to the best medical care around. So that's very young and very, very sad.
Yeah, it is. Two other things that I think of with him. Number one, I'm pretty sure he was the first owner to speak up against Dan Snyder and say, you need to sell that team. I'm pretty sure he was the first to do that. And the other thing that I know is how much of an advocate he's been for mental health. That's been something that's been near and dear to his heart, and he's been one of the leaders in that and speaking about it and taking it from something that I think his generation probably felt was taboo and making it something front and center. So a really incredible impact for him over there. 3 daughters that'll now have the control of the Colts with his untimely passing. Just 65. God, that's young, man.
Yeah.
Couple things around the league. Us and the Steelers both reached out to the Saints about a potential trade involving Chris Olave earlier this offseason, but backed away after New Orleans showed an unwillingness to part with I bet they would. If somebody says, we're not trading him, then you can't.
This could have been as easy as, hey, any interest in trading Chris Olave?
No.
Okay.
Albert Breer with the reporting on that. I saw that. I don't understand why the Saints would trade him.
They wouldn't.
They just drafted him.
They wouldn't.
Why would you trade him? It doesn't make sense unless, that one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Did you watch? I mean, the weather was. By the way, did you get your golf in? All of it in.
We did. Yeah, it was good. It was an epic match. We lost on the 19th
Gibby's
hole.
very happy. What do you mean you lost?
Lost on the 19th hole.
What are you talking about?
We lost on the 19th hole. We were 2 under gross for 19 holes and lost.
Wow.
Guy with a high handicap, Gilboy, was more like Gilman on this
Crushed
day.
it.
In all fairness,
A lot of pars.
I've never heard of a league where you
and he played
don't all play from the same
Don't play
tee.
from the same tees. It drives me nuts. Those are the rules. I don't blame them for that's how it is. But we all have to play the same tees. I think.
Yeah.
You're gonna play from the whites. We'll all play from the whites, or we'll all play from the blues.
So rather than the handicap, they do the tees.
So it's still handicapped, but you only give up a couple shots to go from the blues to the whites. But it's worth way more than a couple shots.
Do you think that's the case at every club, or do you think it's most especially at yours?
I've never encountered this before. Like at Beachmont, when you played in events,
Yeah.
everybody played same tee.
Okay. So what they're doing, these were gentlemen who were a little older.
Correct.
And
one
they
of
were-
them was.
One of them was. So they both got to play
No,
up?
3 of us played from the Blues and 1 from the Whites.
And my guy from the right, from the white, was the
Big Buckeyes fan, and he was formidable, man.
He was
Shot
formidable.
39 on the front.
Well, that's getting after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were really ahead the whole time, and 2 of the last 3 holes he stroked on alone and went par, or he went on 2 of the last 4 holes. I'm sorry, he went birdie for net eagle
Yeah.
to beat a natural birdie of mine,
Yeah.
and Sims made a 5 for a 4, and then on 18 with the match on the line, he had to make a 4 for a 3, and he did, and I parred it, and that was that. And then we went
Wow.
extra holes, and they won it.
And you were able to stay relatively dry
Yeah, it rained really hard for about 30 minutes, and that was it.
right away or towards the end?
After on the 3rd hole.
We had Bootsy was
It was very frustrating. I'm still very frustrated. I'm sick
You don't
about
say.
it. I've
I
gone
can't
through
tell.
The
I
entire
can't tell.
match.
I
I've
can't
written it all
tell.
down. I'm very.
He's very
unhappy.
happy about it. That's the happiest he's ever
Sims
been.
is like, dude, we totally blew. I'm like, Simsy, we played we had a lead. We're 2 up. Look at him go, shaking hands,
white
kissing babies.
sneakers with the
sneaks.
with the coat.
So those are jeans. At first, I
Yeah,
thought
it's
it
a
was
jean.
It's a jean.
It's a jean
Yeah.
with a gorgeous blueberry blue blazer.
Like we were
A
up
white
2
pant.
after 14.
Yeah.
And played the final 4 holes. Gross 1 under.
Yeah, and
And
lost.
lost.
Yeah. Great job out of them. What are you going to do?
What are you
Not
gonna
a
do?
whole lot you can do.
No.
We had
We all got to play the same tees, though.
We
I'm going to make
played-
that my crusade. If you want to have, you can break it down.
Yeah.
Like have a flight where everybody plays from the Whites, and then have a flight where everybody plays from the Blues.
yeah.
And sign up. You want to play from the Whites? Sign up for this flight. Especially because a lot of these guys, not in this case, but there are people in these tournaments who play from the Blues in their normal games when they play with their friends, and then because their age allows them in the tournaments, they get to play from the Whites. They go do that. Like, I'll tell you something. And if it doesn't
I think you
change-
should do, instead of doing it the age, I think it should be handicap. Your handicap is where you play from. Because
but everybody
there's guys
has
who
to
are,
play from the same.
I can't get there with you. You play more than me, but
It's 100%. It's a different golf
Well, that's
course.
fine. That's fine. You that can be your view. That's fine. It's a fine view. I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying that the idea that the problem that I have, and I'm on your side on this, is the age part of it. Because there are plenty of guys now. What's the age where you can go up?
I think it's like 55. Could be 60.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We're in better shape longer than we've ever been, and the
Yes.
equipment advantages are bigger than they've ever been. The ball advantage is bigger than it's ever been. That all of it does is it takes a guy, it levels the playing field. So I would much rather have you play tee boxes based on your handicap versus your age. Because if you're 56, let's say you can play up at 56, you could probably still be in peak shape and probably still hit. There's probably a ton of guys that are mid-50s who could hit 280. I mean, easy. I mean, there's a lot of great players who are that age.
For sure. But
So
here-
I don't. To me, that's the problem: is the age. part
Here's
of
the
it.
thing,
unless
though.
it's like after 70 or something crazy.
And I don't know if you know this or not. You may. So I'm
Probably not.
So if somebody is, let's call them a 13, we'll say you're a 13 index.
Okay.
You would be, we'll call it, this is just for the sake of arguments. You might be a 13 from the Whites, would be your course handicap from the Whites.
Okay.
But then if you move back to the Blues, you're probably a 17. So it's
So you
your
think that-
handicap isn't just, it's not like I get,
But aren't all handicaps measured from the same spot?
no. Well, if you're all from the same tees.
Yeah. I mean, do that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying just because this guy's a 13, the handicap changes based on the tee.
Sure.
Your number actually changes. Now,
Yeah.
here's the part that's interesting is, let's say right now I'm a 4 from the Blues. From the Whites, I'm a 2. So I lose 50% of my handicap. But would I give up 2 shots to go up there? Yeah, I'm going to hit all 4 par 5s and 2. It's worth 4 shots to me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. They are only losing 25% of their handicap to move up.
Yeah.
So it's not equitable. Mm-hmm. That's why you just have to play the same course. So, like, if you want to play from the Whites, well, I'll play the Whites. And everybody's handicap adjusts.
Yeah.
Your handicap's more, your index then applies to the rating and the slope. That factors in, which are different for every tee.
Yeah.
And that changes it. The only way that's equitable is everybody's playing from the same tee.
Here's the deal though. Like everybody playing from the same tee. Like, what size handicap? Like, what is the point where it's hard for you to beat a high handicap, good, decent player? Like, what's the number? What's the hardest number player for you to be that you're like, they might get me?
1-on-1?
Yes.
1-on-1, and 2-man's a totally different game.
Right.
So in 1-on-1, probably somebody who's like a really good, like 9 or 10. Because
that's the toughest for you to play against.
Yeah,
because you got to give them holes, and they're still good enough that
they're gonna get like shots on a third of the golf course, which is basically almost half of the par 4s and 5s, and they're good golfers.
Yeah. So those are the hardest, yeah.
But in a 2-man, when you're playing somebody at this level, a high level like that, like in a 2-man, all you're asking the high handicapper to do, like if the high handicapper makes 6 pars, you're usually winning.
Yeah.
That's a lock.
Yeah.
Because those count as birdies.
Sure. Yeah.
If you have a guy who makes, on his individual stroke holes, he had 4 where he stroked alone. If he pars all 4 of those and then adds in 2 natural birdies beyond that, it's tough. We played really well.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I don't know how to do it. I don't know what the.
I think in a 2-man game, handicap should be 67%, should be 2/3. I also think there's a world in which a handicap should just be a half a shot. So if I beat you, I beat you. If we tie, you win. But I'm looking at it through my lens.
Yeah,
I'm the
you're
one giving strokes.
You're the
all
one
time.
who's giving it. Yeah.
But
So
in a 2-man, 67% makes a little bit more sense to me because in a 1-on-1, it should be full. And in a 1-on-1, even if he did that, the 6 pars and the whatever, 1-on-1, I'd probably still beat him because he's going to just give me a handful of holes where he makes doubles.
Yeah, right. Because then you got to play every stroke. It's different than if you're bouncing off somebody. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the whole thing is viewed, the idea being so that everybody can play against everybody, but it's also a pretty subjective situation. And then you have,
that's why you got to play the same tees. That's he
playing
good
their different
handicaps.
things. Yeah,
he'd get strokes on 4 more.
but even
holes
that, those aren't always genuine. I mean, you see people who sprint to go say, I'm going to card a 92. This will be lovely. And then you play events all summer based off of that. And all of a sudden, so there's no
fixed
perfect
it a
way.
little bit so that it's you out of 20 scores, your lowest 8 are the ones that count for your handicap.
Your lowest 8?
Lowest 8.
Darren, I don't understand why golf leagues don't just have divisions and play straight up. It's because there's not enough golfers to fill the higher divisions. You
There's
still have this. I think
means,
there's enough.
By higher, he means lower, I would guess.
Yeah. To fill the lower. Yeah.
I think he means like
there's not enough great golfers.
Yeah,
there are for sure. And the problem though is like you're a 2, and so then who would be in your group?
There's plenty of people, but even if you're
but I mean, to what number is in your group?
8 would be the max.
So
I would say
8s and under, and
totally.
then you don't give a stroke to anybody.
No, I would. You still would give strokes, but it's only a couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, although in a 2-man though, if you get the most dangerous 2-man team is if you put like me with like a 7, like this guy, a 16 or 17 who can make a lot
score.
of pars.
Yeah.
Impossible. Me and Doug Bloom, Ohio State legend, once beat somebody 10-8. We won the first 10 holes.
Yeah.
Because he was an 18 and I was a 0 at times. So we stroked on every hole, and between me and him, I made a few birdies and he made a bunch of pars, and it was like
good enough. Yeah, that'll do it.
But I like it better when it's a tighter dispersion. I think if you did 0 to 8, 9 to 18, and then 19 plus, those are the flights, and you could have the 19 plus flights play from the whites, I think you'd be good. But these flights should play from the blues.
I would just my only amendment. I wouldn't have it go all the way to 18. I would maybe go 9 to
18s are still a bogey golfer. That's still
yeah, it's all right.
You're a golfer.
Yeah. All right. The parade of stars continue.
Oh baby.
Super Bowl winning Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner going to join us at the top of the hour. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Second hour here, Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time to head out on that Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. From one Hall of Famer to the next, Charles Woodson in the previous hour, and now Super Bowl winning quarterback and NFL Hall of Famer Kurt Warner joining us, of course, of the NFL Network, and he joins us on the Twisted Tea Hotline. Kurt, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's dive in with something you are very, very passionate about, and that is young quarterbacks. We've got two of them. We got Dylan Gabriel. We've got Shedeur Sanders. Both looked really good at minicamp. If you were at our minicamp, what would you be looking for from each of them to lead you to believe or to know that this is going well?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at both of these young guys, you say to yourself, neither one is going to be able to live in the athletic world at the NFL level. In other words, running around, being a playmaker, trying to create with their legs. These guys are both going to, if they're going to excel at the NFL level, they're going to excel inside the pocket. And so what I'm looking for is not only the delivery of the football, because both of these guys have shown that they've got the ability to do that. I'm looking for decision-making. I'm looking for the ability to process information and see all the different things that they need to see, whether it's coverage rotation, whether it's pressure, understanding how to get the ball out in those situations, get the ball out quick and get it to their playmaker. So that to me is I think primary with these two guys, and ultimately how this thing all shakes out will be, based on that, and you can go beyond that and look at Kenny and, obviously we know Joe is Joe, but then go to Kenny. Kenny's going to play the same sort of way. And so that to me is what's going to be the breakdown here is who's the best pocket passer in terms of this decision-making, processing, and then delivering the football where it needs to go.
Kurt, Nathan Zagura here, and we'll talk about the rookies in a second, but talking about Kenny Pickett, I thought it was kind of interesting when he left Pittsburgh that Arthur Smith's offense, or at least what it asked of a quarterback, seemed to me to be probably a good fit for him. We never saw him in that. We'll see him in something similar here with Kevin Stefanski. Do you think the things that Kenny Pickett does well will be accentuated by this offense and vice versa? Yeah,
I mean, I think it could be. I kind of look at quarterbacks in a couple different, I should probably say three different realms. Obviously, you've got the guys like the Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allens and guys that, can be kind of the run pass, dual threat type guys. And then when you get to more of the drop back passers, there's guys that are really good at the drop back game, spread the field out, make decisions, see the entire field, deal the football. And then there's other guys that, are going to be better when you limit things conceptually and you limit the number of receivers that are out and more play action where it's more defined for you, on a down to down basis. And I think, when you look at Kenny, I think that's kind of the mold that, that he needs to be in at this time in his career. I've never seen him, really be able to be that guy that can drop back 35, 40 times and just deal the football. And so knowing what Coach Stefanski wants to do and he's going to take a little more of the reins this year. I mean, he's always been a guy that likes to get into the run-heavy formations and live and run and play action, that limits, the 5 out, 4 out, spread the field, see everything type decision-making for a quarterback. And so I definitely feel like that plays into, what Kenny would be good at right now, and it simplifies things for him, where he can go in and be more of a complementary piece than having to be the integral piece to a pass offense. And so I think that bodes really, really well for him.
Kurt, when you talk about quarterbacks and quarterback play and you find guys, let's say, in this third bucket, which is what, Kevin Stefanski wants an operator as offense, much like Kyle Shanahan wants that and has that with Brock Purdy right now in San Francisco, who's an incredibly talented player. When you have something like that, how difficult is it for guys like, let's say, Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, who basically have been in shotgun, have not done some of that back to the defense hard play action, or certainly not as much as, guys who are very proficient in this offense or style of offense. How hard is that transition, and what is the most important thing for a quarterback from your pre-snap mental picture to when you snap your head back around and to be able to execute these things on time and in rhythm?
Well, there's a couple different elements to that, and it really comes down to what you're asking them to do with the play action. Is it a, quick play action, get your head turned and get the ball out quickly, or is it a longer play action where you have plenty of time to get your head turned, see what is trying to transpire, attacking more down the field? And I don't think, obviously, taking snaps under center, I don't know, that's football 101 to me, but it's not for everybody I know now. So getting comfortable with that sort of stuff. But let's also think about in shotgun snaps. The one thing that every time you have a shotgun snap, you have to take your eyes off the defense. Similar to if you're going to run a play action, you're going to be able to see the defense, and then all of a sudden you're not going to see the defense as you make your play fake, and you're going to have to find the defense again. So in shotgun, you have to do that every snap. Even though it may not be quite as prolonged, it's part of what you have to do. And again, Coach Stefanski and what he's been in the past has been more of that down the field, try to get the chunk throws off of the play action. And so I don't think it's as, quick play action, set your feet, get your ball out, or see the linebacker and get the ball up over the top of the line. It's not as much of that. Not that they're not going to have that. That's always going to be an element. But what they really want to do is run the ball and then get those second-level chunk throws, which isn't quite as quick developing, or force a quarterback to have to, turn, process, and see everything quick. There's not as much of a timing element to some of those things that, that would present, more of a challenge, I guess.
Kurt, when these guys are making this move from college football to the National Football League, there's so many adjustments and elevators of your game that are required, the speed and all of that. But one thing that's jumped out to me, and there's been a lot of examples of this in the lead up to the draft and then after the draft, is so many of these guys playing quarterback in college come out, and Kurt, they look at the sideline, they decipher something off of a sign, they go right to the line of scrimmage, they clap, and then they go. And so now all of a sudden they're having to spit out this verbiage, then they're going to have audibles off of that verbiage, let alone all of the complexities of the offense. The mental part of it has got to be as big a hurdle as any. When you talk to these young guys, what piece of advice do you give about that side of the game? The unfortunate thing is I don't get to talk to a lot of them. I make myself available, but I never, get a chance to really get in a room and dive into tape with most of these guys. But again, that to me is the least of it when we're talking about learning how to call a play. Like, that's something you can do in your dorm room at night is practice the plays. But I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to spitting out verbiage and plays is you have to get so comfortable with your offense that stuff becomes second nature. And, we used to always talk about, it's like learning another language. So if you've ever learned another language, in the early stages of learning that language, you'll learn a word in Spanish, and the first thing that happens is you have to translate it back to English. And that's kind of the way it works when you're learning a new offense is you're like, oh, this protection was this protection when I was at Colorado or when I was at Oregon, and you have to translate it. To be able to be at your best, you've got to get to the point where when you hear a word, it just automatically translates to, what it is, or you understand it in that other language, and then you start to visualize these plays. And so when a coach gives you a call, you're not just trying to go, okay, what did he say? You're going, oh, I know that play, strips right, scat right, whatever, and it just comes off your tongue because you see it, you mentally see it in your mind. And that to me is the key. And it takes time, obviously, to get there. You're not going to expect a guy in rookie minicamp to get there, but that's the whole key. And so to me, it's more about time, memorization, understanding. And so when the coach says trips, in your mind right away, oh, I visually see trips. When he says a certain protection, oh, I know that's, where the back's going and where the offensive, that's what you have to get to. So that's going to take time. I don't worry about most of these guys getting to that point. But, again, the question becomes, especially when you're in a quarterback battle, is the sooner and quicker you can get to that comfortable spot within an offense, the more you can just react and play football. The more you're thinking and translating,
the harder that's going to be. And so it could come quicker for one of these guys than, somebody else. And that could give them a huge advantage in the early stages of the competition.
Kurt, that comes from obviously a lot of study, a lot of time, a lot of dedication off the field. On the field, you get better through reps. And yes, you can get mental reps if it's not your rep. But the Browns have 4 guys. They've got Pickett, they've got Flacco, they've got Gabriel, they've got Shedeur Sanders. How would you, if this was your quarterback room, how would you go about divvying up reps to make this in some ways a fair competition? Because I kind of think it is.
Yeah, I think it should be a very fair, because none of these guys outside of Joe have really, proven themselves at this level. So I don't think any of them really go in, with this, I'm getting the nod right now over another guy because of what I've done and what I've accomplished. I don't think any of them are like that. And so, for me in the competition, obviously you got to get your starter ready. I don't know if they know who their starter is. I hear a lot of people say Joe's going to be the starter to start the season. I don't know if that's what they're thinking or whatever, but you got to get your starter ready. But then beyond that, I think there are plenty of reps in training camp, and you can find ways, to instead of now having 1 7-on-7, having 2 7-on-7s, and you can mix these guys in. And for me, one of the biggest things we always used to say in training camp is the hardest thing when it's a competition is if one guy always goes with the 3s and the other guy's going with the 2s or the 1s. You have more guys that understand what they're doing, and so it's a harder competition to go, okay, we got all these young guys going with this other young quarterback, and we're trying to get a gauge on who they are. So I think to mix those reps up and to make sure that they're going and getting quality reps with guys that understand what they're doing, that play at the right speed and make the right adjustments. And that's the best way to be able to let this thing play out. And so, I have a feeling that's what they're going to do is they're going to give all 3 of those guys, they're going to mix them up on a day-to-day basis and say, show me. To me, it would be like, even if you're at the number 3 and you have a really good practice one day, it'd be like, next day I'm putting you up to the number 2 spot, and I'm going to see how you react there, and I'm going to see how the other guy reacts when he drops to number 3. How does that affect him? And so you want to see that kind of mental part of it, beyond the mental of reading defenses and delivering. You want to see how they handle the competition, how they handle the pressure, how they handle it when they move up and down, when they're having success or when they're struggling a little bit. And I think those are the different things that you try to use training camp the best you can to figure out some of those nuances, because none of these guys will really probably be in a regular season game before they can make those decisions.
When it comes to the rookies, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Kurt, what are a couple of things or a thing that you saw on tape with those 2 that tells you or gives you an idea of how they will be successful or why they will be successful at this level?
Let's start with Dylan. Good football player. Everywhere he went, he had success. He's a guy that, delivers the football quickly, which is something that I really like, is the ability to see it and get it out, very quickly to his playmakers. I thought when he was at the combine, being a smaller guy, you kind of want to see the pace of the football coming off of his hand. When we went to the combine, I thought of the guys that threw, he had the best pace on the football from like 0 to 25 of all the guys. So I don't really worry about, that part of the arm strength and getting the ball out quick. I thought the ball got away from him a little bit more down the field. And so that would be something that, I'll be paying attention to when I see him play, is just the control of the football, down the field. And when he's really got to, push it, being a smaller guy. On the other side with Shedeur, I think he was the most accurate quarterback coming out of this draft. Like when he set his feet and was confident in what he was seeing, or confident in the guys up in front of him, he delivered the football very, very accurately. And I love that both of these guys, but I love that Shedeur throws a very catchable ball. A lot of people look at that and go, oh my gosh, I'm not sure he's got the arm strength that he needs. Well, to me, it's about, getting it where you need to get it, as soft as you possibly can before the defense gets there. And, it wasn't a guy that threw a lot of interceptions or put the ball in harm's way a lot. even though there were times that you thought, oh, maybe throw that a little bit harder. I think there is a beauty and an art form to understanding how to make different throws and not having to ever overthrow the football. I thought Shedeur did that really, really well in college. Now, the biggest thing for me is there was times that he wasn't comfortable in the pocket. His feet were moving all over. He wasn't standing in and making the quick read, and he was looking to get out of the pocket. Now, is that because, that's a part of his game, or is that because the offensive line there struggled the last couple of years? And he got a false sense of insecurity, I would say, where he wasn't quite sure, and, he felt like there was going to be pressure even when there wasn't. So that's kind of the piece that I'm looking for at this next level is, does he have that piece? Is he more confident in the pocket because of the guys in front of him? Otherwise, I think he's got to, get a little bit better at, feeling confident, knowing what he's seeing, and getting the ball out quick.
Kurt, always appreciate the conversation.
Yes.
Thanks for making us smarter. We appreciate you greatly. Thanks for your time today, sir.
You got it. My pleasure.
There he goes, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Pro Football Hall of Famer Kurt Warner from the NFL Network joining us on the Twisted Tea Hotline. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. It is a Mailbag Thursday edition of the program. Still time to get those mailbag questions into Gibbe at Browns_Daily. We'll go around the sports world and some news in college football here. Coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Serious Lawyers, Serious Injuries, 1-800-ELK, Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Still time to get your questions into the mailbag at Browns_Daily. We will answer those momentarily. A little bit of breaking news in the football world. This from the college football world. The powers that be have voted, and the college football playoff in 2025 will be seeded 1 through 12 in order. So last year, for example, you had Arizona State, Boise State get buys. Those days are done. So they'll just go 1 through 12, top 4 getting buys. So that's where they're headed for the final year. And then they'll go to 16 teams probably by 2026.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's where that goes. So the weather sucks. And in large part because of that, we got home from the lacrosse last night, which we were soaking wet and freezing. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna watch a little hoop. I haven't done so. Now, some of it was nostalgia, and it was a little bit of Knicks, Pacers, and Reggie Miller and all of the things that I'd thought of. But the one thing that you have to remember about nostalgia is you remember it the way that it was in your head. And it's worth remembering that those series between the Knicks and the Pacers, while competitive, was awful basketball.
Yeah.
Largely awful.
This was not.
This was not that last night. This was far from it. I could not stop watching the fact, anytime they went to the one end, that LD was sitting next to David Zaslav, who was sitting next to John Hamm. And Susie was right next
to LD.
So the four of them together, anytime the Knicks did anything good or bad, I just looked right at LD to see how he would respond.
LD was fantastic.
I mean, that I could not shake that they were all there. Like, that's a Curb episode. Susie, Larry, the president of HBO, and John Hamm.
It's incredible. It's an incredible group. There's no doubt about it. It was a real powerhouse lineup right there. I think it should have been a Curb episode. I think it would be a fitting Curb episode. All right, a couple of things. Thing number one, because there are a great many things to digest from this. Since 1996, teams that have trailed by 7 in the final 50 seconds of the fourth quarter overtime in the playoffs are 4-17-02. The 2025 Indiana Pacers have 3 of those wins.
Jeez, that's crazy.
So everybody other than the 2025 Pacers are 1-17-1702 in those situations. They've won 3. They won 1 in each series so far. They did it to the Bucks. They did it to us. And now they're doing it to the Knicks. Okay, that's that. There's another stat that I'm looking for from the Pacers where it's that what they really did is the first time ever.
It's the one in like 1,400. It's up by 14 or more with just over 2. Oh, look at Brock. Young Brock's got it in there.
Good, Brock. Perfect.
That was a great job out of him. So he literally held it up, and then he went like this. I'm looking for it, and you're looking for it, and he goes, it's right there. And sure it is. Here it is. The Knicks had a 98.8% chance to win with 1 minute left. The record of teams trailing by 9+ in the final minute of the fourth quarter or playoff game since 1998 were 0-1,414. They were down 9 with 52 seconds to go. This is as much on the Knicks as it is the Pacers winning it. The haphazard nature that they played the last couple of minutes. They actually got bailed out. Jalen Brunson threw it to nobody. Yeah. And they were very lucky that it ended up in the hands of, I want to say, I can't remember who it ended. It wasn't Cat.
Anobi?
Yeah, it was Anobi. Yeah.
Yeah, so, then he went 1 for 2
he
for
went
line.
1 and 2.
But so did Cat. That's why they lost.
Yeah, I mean, they blew it a lot of different ways. They played it so loosey-goosey.
But the Pacers also just won it. I mean, they hit their last 7 threes.
Yeah.
Nesmith did something that has never been done before. He scored 20 points in 4 minutes in the second half of a playoff game, blah, 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 blah. Never been done. What he did was never been done.
6 threes coming in the last 5 minutes.
6 for 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they hit their first one in overtime as well. So here's the question I have for you.
Mm-hmm. Steph
Curry, can we agree Steph Curry is the best shooter
ever?
Okay. If you ask Steph Curry to stand at the top of the key, he doesn't even have to run back like Halliburton did.
Yep.
How many shots does he have to take for him to hit the back of the iron exactly like that so it goes that high in the air and comes straight through the basket?
I think it's going to be lower because I think he's so accurate that I think he might know how to hit that spot to make it do it because he's taken so many shots. But I still think, as I say lower, I'm still thinking it would take like 100 attempts to get that to do it that way. I think it's a 1 in 100 shot even for the best shooter of all time.
Just standing there. Let alone sprinting backwards.
It's an impossible thing for it to hit. I mean, as much basketball as you and I have played in our lives, the amount of times that happens, it's less than a handful where it's a straight up and then in. I mean, that almost never happens. Brock, you played a lot of basketball. Like, how many do you even remember in games? There can't be that many. I mean, it's such a rare occurrence.
The other thing you have to think about is the spin on the ball. Halliburton has a really awkward spin on the ball versus Curry's is end over end, so that's another thing to take into account.
That's a good point. Yeah,
That is a good point. I mean, we saw the weird Kawhi one, but even that one didn't go.
That was a
front
moonshot.
That was front of the rim though, and it bounced like this high, and then
that
when
was back.
This was
and then
this was above like shot clock height.
yeah,
Incredible.
Yeah.
Then he's doing the choke thing.
which was awesome. I loved it.
I loved it too.
Loved it.
But then it wasn't over, and then the Knicks still couldn't get it
He
done.
would have looked like such a buffoon if they don't win.
But he did not.
he did not, and
then
they
you get
did. He
the
looks like a
Reggie
hero.
Miller point.
I loved it.
Reggie on the call of it.
This big picture, this is what I think. You have a couple of things. The weather is garbage here. The weather is garbage within 500 miles of here. And within 500 miles of here is 50% of the U.S. population. Okay? So my guess is a great many people watched last night like we did for nostalgia purposes and for something to do on a cold day that normally isn't cold, right?
Yep.
And what you got treated to was an all-timer.
All-timer.
So, as I said, I think I said it on one of the shows earlier this week. Like, this is a Final Four where there really isn't anybody who roots for any of these teams other than people from those towns.
G-Man's
It's kinda
fired
simple.
up.
Well, he's from Indiana.
I know.
But my point is that now, because of what you delivered, now you have a chance for something that's rare, which is water cooler sports.
Yep. I will
Because
say
now
this.
I think it's going to be, hey, did you see that?
Of course.
And now there's going to be the Friday night in this part of the country is going to be garbage again weather-wise. I think they'll do a nice number. You're coming out of the Western Conference Finals being down 24% year to year. Like, nobody watched Oklahoma City, Minnesota on Tuesday. Nobody did.
The Knicks are
And
a
they're
different animal.
No, I don't think they are a different animal
I do.
at all. They're not. Only people from New York care. They're not a ratings. How many Knick fans do you know who are from New York?
You think? I mean, the ratings are out, aren't they? Were they the same as the Western Conference, or were they better?
I don't think they're out yet. It was just last night. The West ones were available today, so the East ones will be available probably tomorrow morning.
I think it'll be a higher number.
But I think the weather's going to be a part of it, and I think the fact that there's nostalgia, and then it delivered. It gives you the chance to get a little boost. But the Knicks are not the Celtics. They're not anything in that vicinity.
I don't know. My buddy Zodi and Manto were
But they're New
second
Yorkers.
row. Yeah. They were right at the end of the
Yorkers,
Knicks
yeah.
bench. They got some TV time. I was able to get a good video of them.
They're New Yorkers. But like, if
Totally.
I don't know a single person who is not from New York, who has family from New York, who's a Knicks fan. They're not a bandwagonable team.
No, I did love the way Allen Houston shot the basketball, though.
Again, but they weren't your team.
No, I adopted the Charlotte Hornets.
No,
for
so
Rex.
it wasn't. So they got a chance with this, man. It was fun. It was fun last night.
So you don't think the fact that it's New York and there are just
I
so
don't think
many
New
New
York does
Yorkers
anything.
around the world that makes them a better draw than?
better than Oklahoma City, but I don't know that they're not a better draw than the Cavaliers with LeBron.
No,
They're not a better draw than the Dallas Mavericks with Luka. They're not a better draw than Giannis with the Bucks. I think they're a better draw than OKC with SGA, and a better draw because they're still so young. They're not known yet. I mean, he won his first MVP, but I don't know that he's not known the way Luka's known or the way Giannis was known.
No.
So, I mean, the NBA is star driven. I just don't think that there's a big bandwagon Knicks. There's a lot of people from New York, obviously.
For sure.
But I just don't think that it's not like there are people that are there's Celtic fans everywhere. There aren't Knick fans everywhere. It's
Lakers,
people from New York.
Celtics.
Lakers, Celtics, and the Bulls were banned, and the Warriors.
Yeah.
There's Warriors fans everywhere now. I mean, they have that
Yep.
bandwagon ability. All right, we'll open up the mailbag. That is coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fan in the making. Join Junior Browns Packers, official kids club for kids ages 4 to 12, presented by University Hospitals, Rainbows Babies and Children's in association with Cardinal Credit Union. Joined by June 8th to score an invite to the first event of the season, Field Day. Visit juniorbrownsbackers.com to join today. Time to get those mailbag questions. You can send those in at Browns_daily. Have we been doing that? I mean, Gibby's going to Italy. The mailbag is open.
I just sent a tweet out.
The mailbag is open.
All right, I got one here from Darren. Bo, did you establish the First Friday idea as an incentive to cut down on drinking? I'm trying to get sober, or at the very least, way cut down. Was always curious if that's what was behind the idea. No, in fact, the opposite.
Darren. It was kind of, I never liked the idea of spelling Wednesday as a kid. I thought it was stupid. I didn't like the sound of hump day. And I always thought, like, my favorite day of the week was Friday. Maybe we should have two. And then I was looking for a reason to have a good time on a Friday night when I was in my 20s. And so I came up with First Friday. And so we would do it. And the two television stations in town, it was down in Tallahassee, we'd both kind of do it. It'd be a First Friday miracle, and you would act accordingly and have a cocktail, enjoy yourself. And then the next day, you just got to get through a Thursday and you're done. This past First Friday that's like one of the big ones. It's not Thanksgiving First Friday, which is the ultimate First Friday. But for most of you that are smart, you're probably off tomorrow, thinking you're going to be laking or pooling or whatever. You're not going to be doing anything because it sucks. But if it didn't suck, you'd be out in the sun having some fun. And that's one of them. It's this week, Labor Day, 4th of July, into the Christmas holiday. Those are the big First Fridays that are unbelievable. And, of course, none better than Thanksgiving.
No.
Hello, G-Man.
Hi. Hey, don't worry. It's Bobby time.
Hey, Bobby!
All right, here we go. Favorite golf club you've ever owned?
That's a good one.
Favorite golf club that I've ever owned. There are two that immediately come to mind, so this has to be the answer. My first Big Bertha that I ever bought, that I saved up all my money to buy, was obviously a very special club for me. And then for a while, I had a copper Ping Eye 2 sand wedge that I was just deadly with. Deadly. Ping Eye 2s might be the greatest irons ever made.
I did. I certainly don't have the abilities that you have or the vicinity, nor would I be able to name one club that I hit better than the rest. I'm a decent putter, but I did get a Mizuno blue sand wedge last summer.
Oh my God, I have all Mizuno blue wedges.
I look at them and I just think, God, they're the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
I bought the putter just because I was like, I
got to have it. That blue is so perfect.
It's great.
It's beautiful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, more from Bobby. I'm excited about this one. What's the best prank you've ever pulled?
And we've done several of these.
I don't think I can. The best prank I ever pulled happened down in Naples, Florida, but I don't think I can share the story on the air.
If you don't think you can, my guess is you can't. There's some good ones that I've done to the kids. Like I remember videoing Bootsy when he was 3 or 4 and saying that Mom threw all the candy away and he lost it. And he goes, I go, what do you think we should do to Mom? He goes, punish her, or never throw her candy away again, and punish her. And I have it on video, like him, 3 or 4 years old.
Didn't you also scare the people in your house?
That was that was unbelievable. That was Halloween. They had gone trick-or-treating, and unbeknownst to them, I'd acquired a Jason from Halloween mask.
That's right.
And they were unpacking their...
Was it Michael Myers or Jason?
No, Michael Myers. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Michael Myers. Thank you. Yeah, Michael Myers. So they were in the foyer kind of unpacking their candy, and I went down in the basement, and I put on the mask, and then I went out the walkout and went back around, and I just kind of lifted in the window right outside the foyer, just my head, and then I just went, and I'll never forget their faces. Beamsy just went, darted upstairs like a missile upstairs. NBC just screamed and dropped to the ground. Bootsy just started crying like crazy. ran into our room. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" Like we were dying. She's like, "It's Dad! It's Dad! It's Dad!" But it just killed him. It absolutely slayed him. So I mess with them on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, it's good.
Good survival instincts from Beamsy. Just
Yeah,
get
he's
out of the situation. See you later.
I'm leaving the situation, man. I'm gone. Like a missile.
I got one real quick here from Justin Mancino. Is the Browns' ability to rebuild off a down season hindered by the fact the AFC North year in and year out is stacked with some of the best talent in the conference? Yes.
Short answer, yes.
It'd be a lot nicer if we were in the AFC South or even the NFC South.
It's
tough.
We talk about it all the time, and this was you think of the headspace you're in at the acquisition of Deshaun and looking around the division and the conference and saying, look,
that's why you did it.
What are we here to do? We're here to let's go win a Super Bowl in order to beat Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, and Burrow was in our division and just got there to the Super Bowl. We have got to have that level, and that's how it happens.
It's just ridiculous. All 4 in the AFC and 2 are in our division.
2 in our division, yeah.
And they're going to be here for...
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. We just did that the other day. We did like, those quarterback tiers and all of that.
Yeah.
And like the 4 guys who are like unimpeachable are all here and 2 in our division.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you'd much rather be in the NFC right now.
Oh my God, NFC, no, anywhere in the NFC you'd take.
Yeah.
What reality TV show would you agree to be on?
I think you and I would do a great job at The Amazing Race. I don't know if that's still a show.
Let's do it.
I think you and I would thrive at that.
Let's do it.
Do you think? Problem solvers?
Yeah.
Quick on our feet?
Yeah.
I feel like we'd do very well at that.
Yeah. I'm in.
Does that show still go on? The Amazing Race?
Give me 1 second. It looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd do well at that. Isn't the idea like they plop you down in the middle of nowhere and then you got to follow clues to get to somewhere else?
Yeah.
I feel like we'd crush that.
Absolutely.
Easy.
There are 37 seasons.
I grew up playing Where in the World is
Race.
Carmen Sandiego.
Same. Easy. Bogota.
Great show.
That's where she is. She was always in Bogota.
Sounds like a good place to be.
Good place to be.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Let's get back to where we were here.
Favorite course, Matty Mass, Cleveland. Favorite course in the greater Phoenix area, Matt in Scottsdale. His is Wekopa. I really like True North. I think it's the Monument course. I just thought it was so cool. Wekopa I did not play, but I hear tremendous things about it. But I really loved Troon of the ones we played. Liked it better than Greyhawk, for sure. I thought it was really, really nice. Troon North.
All right, I'm pulling up a. Oh gosh, yeah, it looks beautiful.
You got the monuments. You got like big rocks, red
Yeah,
rocks,
that's
in
cool.
places.
That's the thing, though. You and I talk about that all the time with the PGA Championship. It's so cool to go play something that looks totally different than anything you've ever seen.
Totally.
Like when you went and played Muirfield, and you're going to play an exclusive course next week. Like they're both stunning courses, but they're not that dissimilar from an elite course that you would be playing up here. It's tree
Same
lined.
with Olympia Fields.
Right. Yeah. It's a big
It's awesome.
American course. They're awesome. They're perfectly manicured, all that stuff. But then if you go to like this place or you go out in the desert and then all of a sudden you're playing something that just is totally foreign to the eye.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I get excited to see, are those
like
ones that just look totally different.
Coeur d'Alene. They should have a tournament in Coeur d'Alene. I'd love to see them.
Yeah.
It'd be just fun. Different stuff. It would be very, very good.
If you could live anywhere for 1 year, where would you pick?
Family or just me living my best life?
Let's go both. If it differs.
I tell you what, you'd have a hard time doing, like if you don't have to worry about anything. It feels like the people in Maui are really living a hell of a quality of life to me. It seems like they're thriving on about every level.
And this is just 1 year I get to live there?
I feel like
1 year.
Yeah, there's a lot of places in California that are pretty damn great for that.
Living like a sweet spot in San Diego would probably be pretty good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind living somewhere in Tuscany, like in a Tuscan villa for a year.
That'd be a fun spot for a year. Yeah.
Feels pretty great.
That'd be great. Yeah. You saw what happened on the White Lotus.
Nashville.
Nashville is your answer? That's like very doable.
You do that tomorrow.
People live in Nashville all the time.
Get you a job in Nashville tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
G-Man.
Yeah.
It's easy. Yeah.
A lot of great things down in Nashville. Have you ever re-gifted? And if so, what was it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because you get doubles on stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
especially like all this at Christmas time. They do those blind elephant things.
Yeah.
I can't stand
White
those.
elephant.
Fine. I can't.
Might as
stand
well be
those.
blind.
Might as well be blind. You don't
Yeah.
know. It actually blind makes more sense.
That's because you don't know what it's
You
getting.
don't know what you're getting. I can't stand those things. Can't stand them. I do. We have to do like several of them every year, and every year, like I don't even remember what I ever got. Like it never comes home. I don't even know what happens to it. So usually I just take one that I get in one and I give it to the next one.
Yeah.
It's always the same price range. Here, go ahead, have it. I don't know.
All right, I got one from Jared Luganbill. He says, Charles Woodson was the best high school player I've ever seen. In honor of his joining the Browns ownership group, who is the best high school player you ever saw?
That's easy.
Oh, this is easy for me.
For me, it's Jason Kidd.
Yeah, that would be pretty. Was he? Do you have a football one?
Trying to think. Braxton Banks was at the high school I went to and was really, really good. Roy Williams was at Logan, the safety.
Safety that went to Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yep.
Braxton Banks went to Notre Dame, like at peak of Notre Dame, but then never materialized
yeah.
kind of past that.
G-Man.
Jaden Ballard, wide
He's a
receiver out of
beast.
Massillon. Absolute beast. I mean, 50-50 ball, just throw it up to him. He was going to catch it. Committed to Ohio State, now he's at Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a shame that I think if he could have, I understand why he had to go.
Yeah.
Ernie Sims for me. Ernie Sims was he started on a state champion as an 8th grader. He was a 4-time Florida state champion. He was the #1 overall high school football recruit in the country coming out of high school. He's USA Today National Player of the Year. He had 3 schools were his finalists of where he was going to go. Florida State, Auburn, and Georgia. All 3 said that they would unretire the number 34 for him. That's Ron Sellers at Florida State, really good player. That's Herschel Walker at Georgia, and that's Bo Jackson at Auburn. That's how good he was. Now, he ends up being a first-round pick. I think he's a 7th or 8th pick of the Lions, and he had some concussion stuff and just was never – he was still a good player, had a good probably 10-year career, but was the best high school football player. I saw him play Tallahassee Lincoln. And Tallahassee Lincoln had 7 kids who went Florida State, Miami, like Antonio Cromartie, Pat Watkins, all these guys who played in the league were all on the same team. And he single-handedly beat them. There's a video we had of him at the television station I worked at with him just like throwing people off of him. He was and he played linebacker at Florida State. Like, I really think he could have been like a Bo Jackson type running back. Like, he was that good. He was untackleable. And all 3 of those schools offered to unretire the jersey, which has never been done.
Wow.
Yeah, he was stunning. Stunning.
And where
most people
where did he go?
Florida State.
Was he better at Florida State than like Ron Simmons?
No.
No. No.
No, he wasn't better than Ron Simmons. He wasn't probably better. He was a first-round pick. Like, I want to say he was an eighth pick in the draft. He was a top 10 pick of the Lions. But, no, he wasn't like a multiple All-American. He wasn't like Derek Brooks or Andre Wadsworth. He was a really good player. Really good player. And, again, he was a first-round pick. But he never – it never went to that level. I think he probably started as a freshman. He's a 3-year starter. I mean, I'm guessing his accolades were pretty good.
Yeah.
But he never, like, won the Bednarik or anything like that. As the nation's top, but he was, as a high school player, was ridiculous.
That's wild.
Yeah. So much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. right. It's funny. I went to. I mentioned Ernie Sims. I actually went to his first pro game too. It was here. It was a preseason game against the Browns. It was obviously long before I worked there. This would have been in probably 06.
Okay.
Something like that. 07, maybe 07. Yeah, but he was the 9th pick in the draft. He was an All-American at Florida State. Played 3 years. So that's the way that. There's been a lot of
any Pro Bowls?
No, he got dinged. I remember he had a
concussion
thing early,
Mm-hmm.
and he just never did that. I don't think he ever made a Pro Bowl or anything. But he remains the only linebacker to ever be the number 1 overall prospect in the country on the Rivals ratings, even all the way through last year. He's the only linebacker to be number 1 overall. Most times you ask folks around here who the best high school football, the answer I get most often here for best high school football player they ever saw from the Cleveland area, it's usually Robert Smith is usually the answer. That if you talk to people who've been around long enough, they say Robert Smith's unlike anything you've ever seen. And that makes sense because he was a sprinter too.
Yeah.
And I think he was Euclid. I think. Someone's screaming, "Yeah, you idiot! It's that." Well, I'm not from here, but
he was Euclid.
He's Euclid, Kev. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's usually the one that I get is usually that one. All right, the next level is coming up next. We are back tomorrow. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.